Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news where we don't hide away from the news. And the breaking news is that AJAX are becoming more and more confident that Jurrien Timber will decide to stay at AJAX. A bit of a transfer blow for Manchester United, a bit of a panic. Look, if I was doing the show, I wouldn't want to cover that. I'd sort of go, I don't really believe it. But the reality is, it's a news show, so we will cover it and we'll whack it up on the screen for you straight away. You can see where it's coming from, and it's coming from Mark Verwey, who says AJAX are now having high hopes about keeping Timber. The club are receiving more and more signals that he will decide to stay due to the guaranteed role he has at AJAX ahead of the World Cup. And then in the mirror, Man United's potential move for Timber is in the balance. He's worried that joining Manchester United this summer could put World Cup dream in jeopardy. And then back to the mirror, Timber is now agonising over whether to call the deal off with Manchester United because of fears he could miss the World Cup, although a compromise could see him join the club in the winter transfer window, which is an offer is already on the table for that. I mean, look, you know what? It's a news show. We're talking about the news, and below, Mike Verwey has been very, very good in relation to Ten Hag and many other stories around Manchester United. So there's no reason to call that out as nonsense. But I remain confident. As of now, remember, I suppose the key three things I would say. You've got to negotiate and you've got to persuade, and we're definitely in for him. There are three levels to this transfer, which I think people are panicking about. We're going to miss out. Panic. The fire's on fire. And the reality is, get a fire extinguisher. Just calm down. He's not coming. Like, I remain 80% sure that we'll get him. I even said last night, if you want to go 90%, you can go 90%. The reason we're not at 100% is because there's always that little thing. 90% club's been defeated before with Sancho. You know, it didn't happen. So things can happen that change it. But I'm going to try and put your mind at rest based on knowledge and opinion. So, knowledge. We know that Ten Hag wants Timber. He's his number one choice. And Ten Hag has a very good relationship with Timber. He gave him his debut at AJAX. That is a very strong reason for Manchester United to sign Timber, because Ten Hag wants him. It's his first summer in charge. You can't miss out on targets. Mata's gone, by the way. Man, look, I'm running the show and I'm more interested in Timber. Well done, Juan Mata's gone. Thank you, Juan Mata. Goodbye. There's your 5 seconds. Let's get back onto the future. I'm not looking at the past. I know Mata's gone. I know Lingard's gone. I know Pogba's gone. Cavani will go today as well. We knew Mata was going. He was waving at the fucking crowd. What do you want, a medal? I'm not talking about Mata. I'm talking about the chat. Mata's gone, Mark. Oh, Mata's gone. Breaking news. Mata's gone. Mata's been gone for 4 years, mate. Did you watch him play on the right wing against Chilwell at Leicester? He's gone. He's been finished for years. Goodbye. This ain't Ricky. You know, Ricky's probably shedding a tear, putting his, suit on and a black tie. But the reality is, I'm not bothered about Mata going. Good. As long as we haven't given him a new contract, happy. Now let's get back on Timber. We're talking about Timber here. Not bloody people who should have retired 3 years ago. All the best to Juan Mata. Lovely guy. Fantastic career. But should have been out of Man United 2 or 3 years ago. And he's got to look at himself for that as well. Yes, you played well against Brentford, but you were crap against Brighton. So look, let's get on with it. We are talking about the future of Manchester United, not the past. Jazz, thank you for the super chat. I don't know what that means. Welcome to Members Club, Shauna. So let's focus on Timber. In relation to Timber, let me just readdress this because of all the Mata prats in the chat. So Timber, there is strong indication from good sources close to AJAX that they've received encouragement that he's going to stay at AJAX. Does that concern you? Does that concern me? Salim says he's loving the clear out. Yeah, I'm loving it. But I want to get the players in, and that's what we're talking about here in relation to Timber, Salim. So that is good. That is well sourced. There's something going on there. So I'll take that on board. Does it make me want to think I'm not 80% sure we're going to sign Timber? No. Marcel van der Kraan, who I spoke to on TalkSport 2 nights ago, said he will join Ten Hag at Manchester United. I'm absolutely convinced about that. That's another good source saying that. So you can't just pick and choose your sources. A source is a source. And we've got very good information that Manchester United are negotiating with AJAX, that Timber wants to come and that Erik Ten Hag wants him. So why would I suddenly start panicking this morning because AJAX have received encouragement that they might want to keep a player that they want to keep? Maybe this is coming out to get the price up. Maybe this is coming out to make Man United nervous. Maybe they know United desperately want to get Timber. I don't know, but I don't believe that this is anything to panic about. And I'll explain why. We know for a fact that Man United are negotiating with Ajax, and we know that Timber's open to coming to United, and we know that Ten Hag wants to buy him, right? Okay, let's dissect this story. So Timber's having agonising second thoughts about coming to Manchester United because he's concerned about his World Cup spot. Right, there's two things I want to say here. First of all, check the last 6 or 7 games for the Netherlands. He hasn't started. It's always De Ligt and Van Dijk, and even if they play a back three, sometimes play Blind there. He doesn't always start. Now, Timber may well start over the next 4 games that the Netherlands have got, and maybe he feels he'll be starting in the World Cup. But can I just say one name? Louis van Gaal. Has Louis van Gaal had anything positive to say about Manchester United in the last few years? Who is the coach of the Netherlands? Louis van Gaal. What other Man United player have we got in that squad to convince him to come to Manchester United? No one. Daley Blind's a former player, but we don't know how that ended. There's nobody in Timber's ear at the moment saying go to Manchester United. So, in fact, there's Liverpool players in that squad who might be saying don't go to Man United. So, am I surprised that he's got people in his ear in a Dutch squad saying, well, you know, Van Gaal could be saying to him, if you go to Man United, I won't pick you. You know, you won't start, so I won't pick you. If you stay at Ajax, I will pick you. You don't know what he's being told. And of course he wants to go to the World Cup. He's 20 years of age. But if we're not going to start Timber, then he should stay at Ajax anyway. Are we not buying what Ten Hag wants here? Are we not buying a player that's going to revolutionise the way we play defensively, the higher line, the passing out from the back? If Timber thinks he's coming to sit on our bench, he shouldn't come to us anyway. This is not what we've been sold. We've been sold that Timber's coming into that first team to play as a centre-back to revolutionise the way we're going to play. If he's coming into the team to sit on the bench for Harry Maguire and Rafael Varane, he should stay at Ajax. So, look, let's look at this openly. What's being said there actually is true. Like, if he's coming to Manchester United to sit on the bench, what's the bloody point? He's coming to Manchester United to start. We're going to spend about 40 million quid on him. So, this is about persuasion and negotiation. And this is not about Erik Ten Hag. If we don't sign Timber, I ain't blaming Ten Hag. I'm blaming the club. This is what we talk about the club this summer. This is where the club has to deliver. Yes, Woodward's gone. Yes, Matt Judge has gone. Can you do a deal like this? And if you can't do a deal like this, then what's changed? Manchester United are under pressure this summer from the fans, from the media, from Ten Hag, from everywhere. They have to deliver. When Erik Ten Hag hands over a list, like Mourinho did, like Van Gaal did, like Moyes did, and the club don't deliver, who's to blame? We know Mourinho didn't get first choices. We know Van Gaal didn't get first choices. We know Moyes didn't get any choices, to be fair. He ended up with bloody Fellaini. He wanted Fabregas and Kroos and Bale. So, Manchester United, Ten Hag wants Timber. Instead of panicking about, oh, he doesn't want to come, that's not the truth. That's not the truth. If we fail this deal, it's because we didn't negotiate and persuade properly. If he stays at Ajax because he's worried about his place, then we have failed. We are Manchester United with his ex-manager about to embark on hopefully a bright new future in the best league in the world. If he thinks he's better off staying at Ajax, we have failed in our negotiation ability. So before you start panicking about he wants to stay, remember, persuasion, negotiation. They're the two things, P and N. We've got to persuade this player to come to Manchester United because we've got to sell it to him in the right way in relation to game time and future. Negotiation is the same thing. We've got to prepare a package which blows Ajax out of the water and makes us a desirable thing. If we can't do that and he decides to stay at Ajax, I'm not buying the whole, you know what, United's my manager Ten Hag, but I'll stay where I am. I mean, that's ridiculous. To play in a World Cup, I mean, if he's playing for Manchester United from the start of the season, he's going to go to the World Cup. And if he doesn't go to the World Cup, then Van Gaal is a very vindictive person. So, you know, at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see. You can't be held to ransom, Mark. Move on. Do not know what you're talking about, Sir Nigel Farage. I know you think that you're the genius of the one-sentence super chat, but actually, sometimes, please give us a little bit more, because I've got no idea what you're talking about. Mata leaves United, says Aradia. Much needed clear out happening. That could have just happened last year if Ollie knew how to take tough calls. Yeah, we were hearing that Mata has left Manchester United. And, you know, what I would say about Mata is that I really like him. Really nice guy in real life, but he should have left United 3 or 4 years ago. I think he's been finished for a very long time. And people talk about, wow, look at him against Brentford. And yeah, in a certain game, probably 2 or 3 times a season, he is useful. But we play 50 games a season, and for 90% of them, he's just completely off the pace and has been for a long time. He should have gone a year ago. Again, a little bit like Lingard, probably promised things that weren't given. I'm glad he's gone. It means that there's no more barrier to people like Garnacho and Mabry and young players. People like Mata and Lingard were taking the bench spots of younger players who deserve a chance. So yeah, that's what I think about that. I had a dream that we bought Kante and they bought him on a stretcher, says Manu, and what are we supposed to do with him? Right, okay, so look, I don't know what people are feeling about Timber, but ultimately, another thing I wanted to say as well, Murta flopped Haaland and Bellingham negotiations, says Julian. I think you need to focus in on the negotiations here. Ten Hag wants him. He wants to come to us. Ajax will negotiate. If we don't get him, then it's on the club. And remember as well, for all this about his agonising over staying, remember, Ajax will only keep him if he signs a new contract. He's got 2 years left on his deal. If he waits a year, he'll be a lot cheaper, so Ajax will lose money on it. Ajax want to keep him, but they want him to sign a new deal. Now, if he signs a new deal at Ajax, I don't know what United have been doing, because that would be an embarrassment. But don't panic. Don't concern yourself. The reality is the story is good. It's always been well sourced. And if we blow it, it's the club who blow it. And I can't deal with that. You can't deal with that. But that's the truth. Some people are acting like we were never in for Timber in the first place. Read the story. He's agonising over the move, apparently. The move is on offer. He's open to it. We want him. If it falls through, it's because we didn't negotiate the deal well enough. And that is on Manchester United. It is not on Ten Hag or anybody else who's been talking about this deal for a while. As for this potential, he might join us in the winter after the World Cup. Who's bigger? The Netherlands World Cup campaign or Manchester United's rebirth? Like, you know, I'm sorry, we can't do that. That I don't know whether there's any truth in that, but we can't say, you know what, stay at Ajax till the World Cup and then come to us. I mean, that to me just suggests that we're buying a backup player anyway. He's meant to be a first team player. So I don't agree with that. And also, another thing to consider, which I just thought as well, if he's agonising about staying at Ajax, he ain't never playing for Man United. Mohammed, welcome to the Members Club, because if he stays at Ajax, we're not going to go, oh no, we've missed out on Timber, we'll have to wait a year. We'll buy bloody Torres or Carmo or someone like that. So I'm not concerned, I'm not worried. I'm really not worried about this. I think that, you know, it's a massive opportunity for him. And if he thinks he's not going to go to the World Cup and he's better off staying at Ajax, ultimately that's a coward's way out, isn't it? Because you don't believe in yourself, you don't trust yourself. If you're listening to negative, he's got two voices on his shoulder, really, hasn't he? He's got Ten Hag saying, "Come to Manchester United with me. I know you're only 20, but I believe in you and I want you to be part of this journey." And then you've got maybe Van Gaal saying, "Don't go to Man United, you'll ruin your career. Stay at Ajax and I'll take you to the World Cup." I mean, one is a really ambitious step up, and the other one is staying as you are. So I think I think he'll come to Manchester United. I really do. To me, it's just the normal ups and downs of a transfer saga. And as we know with United, these things can go on for weeks and weeks and weeks. But ultimately, if he did stay at Ajax, which I don't think he will, if he did stay at Ajax, there'll only be one element to blame, and that will be the club, Manchester United, that we'd failed to negotiate a deal. Morning, Mark. Do you feel that the summer is going to be like others? Try hard for one player whole window and nothing happens as usual, says Navish. No, I don't think United can do that, Navish. I really don't. I think we've got to go and get what we want, and if we can't get it, we've got to move on very quickly. So, you know, I think that's got to happen. And remember as well, Timber himself said he wasn't going to make his mind up till the middle of June. So it may not be till the middle of June that he makes his mind up. Sorry, off topic for a second. Are you doing a watch along for Wales versus Ukraine on Sunday? No, Michael, I'm not. I've said this about 6 times. I'm out on Sunday, so I will not be doing that. Well, I'm not actually out. I'm just doing something else. So no, I'm not doing that. Which I want to talk about in a minute. McTominay playing at centre-back, and yet we're playing him in midfield. He can't even get in Scotland's midfield, and we're playing him in Manchester United's midfield. At some point, someone's got to wake up and smell the coffee on that one. We have to move down the list. Carmo next, says Sir Nigel Farage. There we go. And See, now you make sense. You've said, your previous comment was we can't be held to ransom. Maybe Ajax are holding us to ransom. I would consider asking Marina of Chelsea to come in and do transfer negotiations. Very highly rated operator, says Red Devil. Yeah, United won't do that though, because they don't go for external expertise. They go for people that have got a touch base with the club. Why would anyone not want to represent their nation at the World Cup, Mark? I think it makes sense to want to play at the World Cup for your nation, says Abratim. You're not listening, Abratim. You're not listening, are you? You took something like people do, took it completely out of context, and you've not actually computed what I said. What I said is, why would you stay at Ajax to go to the World Cup with the Netherlands over coming to Manchester United in the biggest league in the world, one of the biggest clubs in the world? And why would you turn your back on that because you're scared you'll lose your place in the Dutch national squad? Why would you lose your place in the Dutch national squad? That's what I mean. It's cowardice over ambition. Like, if you believe you're good enough to play for the Netherlands in the Dutch World Cup squad, that means you believe you're better than De Ligt. And if you think you're better than De Ligt, then you should be playing centre-back for Manchester United, which is what was on offer. What I'm saying is, I think staying at Ajax to make sure you go to the World Cup is ridiculous, really. But look, maybe he will do it. United should be able to negotiate that. Mark, what's your thoughts on Ron McNally? Left-footed international experience. We're not in for him, Slabhead. Ebenezer, welcome to the Members Club. How much wages are we being freed up with all these free outgoings? I don't know, Lath, but there is a lot. Like you say, Pogba 400k, Mata 150, Matic 150, Lingard. Yeah, there's a lot of money. It's about £1 million a week, isn't there, in wages that's going to get freed up. I'm from Edinburgh, and after watching Scotland last night, I think it's unfair to lump McTominay and Fred together. Fred is double the player of McTominay, says Daniel Kirk. We're going to talk about that in a minute, Daniel. He's heard of our club politics, which we'll see him benched for Maguire, says Nana. You know what, now? You've made a great point there. And that's my point, is if Ten Hag, if Timber's asking the right question, and that question has to be, am I starting centre-back when I join this club? And the United go, we'll have to wait and see. Then I probably would say, well, I want to go to the World Cup. I'm staying at Ajax. And I've said that already. What we should be saying for a player that is a modern centre-back who plays in a high line and can pass out from the back, and we're going to spend £35 million on, what we should be saying to him is, we're buying you to start. Now, if United are not spelling that out, then you can understand why you might be thinking about staying at Ajax. It's negotiation. That's all this is. All I know is that Timber is very open to coming to Manchester United and that Ten Hag really wants him. If he's suddenly having second thoughts, that's a failure on the negotiation side. Because that means there's uncertainty. Because if he's worried about his World Cup spot, that means he's worried he's going to be on the bench. He should not be on the bench for Maguire or Varane. He should be coming in as Ten Hag's centre-back, who is actually going to build his centre-back vision around, because he knows how to play in a Ten Hag system. So basically, you can't ever say to a player, you're a guaranteed starter, because if they're crap, you've got to bench them. But what you can say is, I want you as one of my first signings of this rebuild, because you're exactly what I want to rebuild my team around. And that's what should be said to him. If we're not getting that across in negotiations, then we're failing. Because I know that that's what Ten Hag thinks. And if I was Ten Hag, I would be on the phone to Manchester United saying, who's negotiating this deal? Who's negotiating this deal? Why is he having second thoughts? Give me the phone, I'll do it. Because you've got to make people believe in your project. And somebody said, well, that's arrogance. No one should be guaranteed a place. Did you see us for the last fucking year? Most signings should be guaranteed a first team place, because that team that played last year is crap. If we can't get Timber, forget about De Jong, says Andrew. And I think this is an interesting point as well from Andrew Appleby. The Timber thing is exactly the same thing as De Jong. We are trying to persuade a player to come to Manchester United. And Ajax are maybe trying to persuade a player to stay. This is all about negotiation. People can home in on journalistic opinion pieces that are well sourced or whatever, but the reality is De Jong is about persuasion and Timber is about persuasion. If we can't persuade these players to come to our club, who's at fault? The player that's uncertain about whether to come to the club, or the club that's negotiating with them that can't sell them the dream? We've not been very good at transfers for 9 years. Are we going to be good at transfers over the next 9 weeks? It's a big ask, but that's what they've got to deliver. I'm just happy Eric is making Man United doing things fast. If Timber is not starting, then there is no point spending 40 million on a centre-back, says Jash. And also, if anything, coming to United and playing against better opposition will improve Timber's chances to play in the World Cup, says Korshuk. Yeah, and as I said, I wouldn't underestimate the influence of Louis van Gaal. Erik ten Hag himself spoke to Louis van Gaal about coming to Manchester United. We know that Louis van Gaal's opinion on United is very low, and Erik ten Hag said, I take opinion in from people, but I make my own decisions. Now, maybe Louis van Gaal said to Erik ten Hag, don't go anywhere near Man United, they'll ruin you. But Erik ten Hag still did. Maybe Timber needs to do the same. Because I don't think Louis van Gaal really has a very high opinion of Manchester United because of his own experiences. We need to negotiate better. In life, when you want something, you will get people who are saying, don't do that, don't do that, and you'll get people saying do that, and you've got, we've got to negotiate better. If we would do everything Erik ten Hag wants, then we would sign Timber and others. Actions and words are two different things. I don't trust Murta and United, says Tabraz, who's actually doing our negotiating now. Also, has Sangar from PSB been talked about on this show? Best DM along with Rice and Chouamini, in my opinion, says Duncan. Sangar, or Sangari, however you pronounce it, has been mentioned numerous times by our fantastic community. Have Manchester United ever been linked to him? No. It's surprising because Erik ten Hag has a very good knowledge of the Bundesliga. He's got an even bigger knowledge of the Eredivisie because that's where he's been managing the last few years. And if he thought Sangar was up to it, I can't understand why we wouldn't be all over that. But we haven't been linked to him at all. So, look, I don't know why. I miss the days when it took Sir Alex Ferguson one phone call to make or break a deal, says Lath. And join Man United with hearts and minds, says Tony. Thank you very much for that there. In relation to who's doing the negotiating, look, it's very early days. The transfer window is not officially open yet. But when you look at the situation that we are in, we know pretty much nailed on that Ten Hag wants Timber, De Jong and Nunez. If he doesn't get any of them, that's a disgrace. And the club will be looked at. They have to deliver what that manager wants. And in fairness, if you look back at Mourinho in his first summer, he got everything he wanted. He got Zlatan, he got Pogba, he got Mkhitaryan, and I think he got Bailly. He got everything he wanted. If you look at Ollie's first summer, he got Maguire, James, Wan-Bissaka. Obviously, I'm not saying these were good signings, but that's what Ollie wanted. He had £150 million spent on him. We spent £80 million on Harry Maguire. We spent £50 million on Wan-Bissaka. Ten Hag has got a harder job than Mourinho and he's got a harder job than Ollie. You cannot not deliver what he wants. And United can say things like they're not going to overpay. Whoa, stop the horse a minute, right? You're not going to overpay. Why should Ten Hag be treated worse than Solskjaer? You spent £50 million on Wan-Bissaka and you spent £80 million on Maguire. But you're going to suddenly, under a new manager who needs everything now, and he needs his first choices, you're going to go, nah, we're not overpaying for your targets, mate. We've got to get this right. And as I said, I think it comes down to pure negotiation. That's what it's all about. So we'll see what happens. I'm not worried about Timber. Let's see what happens with that. Obviously, whilst we've been live, Mata has left Manchester United. I'm not really that bothered, to be honest with you. I think we'll probably get a couple more today. Feels like they're doing 2 at a time. I don't know I think Matic has basically been done, hasn't he? Because Matic did his. So, I think that maybe Cavani will be announced today. The big ones were Lingard and Pogba because they're more higher profile players for whatever. But Manchester United can confirm that Juan Mata will depart the club when his contract expires. It's just, it's using these days to get rid of players, and I applaud it. I suppose Mata's probably significant in the sense that there was a hint a couple of weeks ago that he might speak to Ten Hag and make his mind up to stay for a little bit longer. That did concern me, but it made no sense. Mata's gone, Pogba's gone, Lingard's gone, Matic is going to go, Cavani's going to go. So the 5 we knew that were walking out the door for free, they're walking out the door for free. Good. And then he said good riddance. It's not really good riddance. It's not like that, but it's good that they're gone. We don't need to think about when they're going to get announced now because they've been done. No player hoping to impress for the World Cup squad would refuse a move to the most watched league in the world. Timber should know this, says Muad. And imagine if not one of Ten Hag's transfers come to fruition. The irony, says Red Since. It'd be disgraceful, mate. It would be absolutely disgracing. Even if he's not guaranteed starter, he will get more than enough game time to go to the World Cup, says Daniel Kirk. And Kante, Malacia, James Ward-Prowse, Timber, Nunez, Spence, De Jong. They're my ideal transfers, says Wayne Finnegan. Interesting. Well, look, you know what as well? I do think that there will be other exits out of the club. But the great thing about moving out all the players that are out of contract, like Mata, like Lingard, like Pogba, like Cavani, like Matic, is that they're gone now. We don't need to think about it. It's like clearing out your attic, isn't it? The stuff that's in the corner that you need to, you've got to get rid of. But it's still a job to do, isn't it? It's not a job to do anymore. You've cleared that. Now you can move on to other areas. And Henderson, Phil Jones, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Anthony Martial, they're the next 4 for me. And there's probably Pereira as well. So there's still quite a few players to get to move on. Mark, I'm 20 today. Happy birthday. Thank you for all the content you provide. Even as a Barca fan, I love to watch. I know you want Frankie de Jong, but I want him to stay, says Abby. Well, look, we'll have to wait and see what happens with de Jong. I sympathise with Barcelona fans on that because it's the same as Frankie. He doesn't want to leave, does he? It's a financial thing. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. There's a lot of people ticking off lists of players leaving like it's an achievement. To me, it's good, but they're all expected. I want one from left field, says Nick P. Yeah, I agree with Nick. I would love to see the sacrificial lamb. And what I mean by that is, Mata, I said this a couple of weeks ago, we can all celebrate Lingard and Pogba and Mata and Cavani and Matic going. But if they all had 2 years left on their contract, we know none of them would be going because United are rubbish at getting rid of players like that. Players that want to leaving the club, we're cheerleading it. I'm not cheerleading the fact that we're moving them on. We're not clearing anything out. What I'm acknowledging is that we're actually announcing they've gone a month before they're going to go. That's the thing for me. It's the message we're sending out that we don't want to be involved in any uncertainty or whatever. We don't want to be involved in where they're going. We just want to say they're gone. That's what I'm applauding. I'm not applauding the fact that we're clearing deadwood. Like, they're going to leave anyway, so you're right. But yeah, if we can move on Henderson and Martial and Wan-Bissaka and players like that, that's when we're actually doing proper removal of players who have still got contracts and we're actually bringing some money into the club. And yeah, look, if we were to sell a Rashford or a Maguire or a Bruno or someone like that, and I'm not saying we should, that would be something where the fans would sit up and go, wow, this is real change. I don't think we're going to do that, but that would be, I think, what Nick P is talking about. Talking of which, just very quickly, there seems to be a bit of revisionism going on. Revisionism? Basically, it seems to me that we are getting a little bit, from the media, blinkered vision of what last season was. Obviously, I know we spoke about Harry Maguire's interview yesterday. There's a few comments coming out from the media today that, Roy, I think it was Gabby Agbonlahor on TalkSport actually, who actually, I think a lot of the time twists himself up all the time, contradicting himself. But there was a comment he made that wasn't a good comment, but I wanted to bring it into the show, that was, some of the criticism of Harry Maguire's unfair. People listen to Roy Keane talking about Harry Maguire and they listen to him, and that's why he's getting criticism. And I even replied to the tweet and I said, hold on a minute, you're completely disrespecting the modern football fan. The modern football fan knows a lot more than ex-players. The modern football fan knows a lot more than players. I don't know whether you saw it yesterday, but the 6 nominations for PFA Player of the Year, which is voted for by footballers, didn't include Son. Son won the Golden Boot. He had 30 goal contributions in the Premier League, including assists and goals. Wasn't even in the top 6. What does that tell you about the modern footballer? They haven't got a bloody clue what they're talking about. They don't even know who the good players are in the game they play. They pick their mates, they're lazy, and therefore, I think it's really insulting to say that football fans are influenced by anybody other than their own eyes. I think the knowledge in our community and the wider social media of football is unbelievable. I've never known it. I've been watching football for years and years and years. The knowledge that the modern football fan had is ridiculous. All over Europe. Amazing knowledge. When people say Harry Maguire's crap, it's because he's had a crap season. Let's not revise last season and say, it's not as bad as... I don't want to be in a situation where we're pretending that last season's not as bad as it was. It's our lowest ever points total. We had disgraceful results. I can't see us replicating that ever. I can't see us going to Watford and Brighton getting smashed up again as much as we did. Liverpool at home. It was disgraceful, disgusting season from start to finish, basically. And those players were a disgrace. I don't want to listen to people saying, wow, they're not as bad as people say. They were absolutely disgraceful. An absolute joke. And if they want a future at Manchester United, they need to acknowledge how crap they were and come back and play a lot better. 100%. Revisionalism about it is not going to work. They were shit. Full stop. Own it and move on. If United don't get first choice, do you go for second choice or no transfers this summer? Scott, you've got to get players in. You've got to get players in. Rick and Scott, welcome to the members club. I'm not sure why we don't look for loan deals like Chelsea did for Kovacic. Personally, I would love Jovic on loan, says Shajal. And but the reason I brought that up, sorry Mark, but you can't seriously think Timber is starting ahead of Maguire and Varane. He's clearly being brought in for the future, says Danish. Well, if he's being brought in for the future, he's going to stay at Ajax. I seriously do think he's been brought in to start in the team. Look, I put it to you. My whole angle on this is that we're buying Timber to start. If we're not buying him to start, then he should stay at Ajax. This is what I mean about negotiation. If United are buying Timber to be a backup, he should stay at Ajax. That's crap negotiation. And he is right to stay at Ajax. The story we've been fed is that he's been told that this is like a priority signing and he wants him in his starting lineup. Now, if United are not selling that to him, then he's right to stay at Ajax. But that's not what I've heard. That's not what we've all thought. Is there any truth in the Martial swap deal for Martinez, or a journalist just trying to sell papers, says Colin O'Connor. I don't think swap deals will happen. If you're going to swap Anthony Martial, you've got to do it with a club that can afford his wages. I suppose Inter Milan might be able to afford his wages. Timber was on fire versus Haaland during Dortmund. How is he not ready for the Premier League? Oh, I think he's totally ready, Vincent. I think United just need to sell that he's ready. That's the simplest thing. But I don't know whether anybody saw Scotland play yesterday. They lost to the Ukraine. Commiserations to any Scottish fans. It wasn't Scooby-Doo, it was Scooby-Don't. But it really did hammer home something that, and I'm going to use McTominay again, I suppose, but it's indicative of the problems at United in general. Maguire should be benched for Timber. For me, in my opinion, Varane is our best centre-back and Timber would be our new centre-back. So Timber and Varane would be my centre-backs and Maguire goes to the bench. We can't carry Harry anymore just because he's the captain and we spent £80 million on him. He would be the player that comes out of the team. And that would be justified based on his performance last season. So Maguire would come out of the team. How do people think Timber won't start in front of Maguire and Lindelof, says Lath? They are bloody shocking. But last night, I saw bits of the Scotland-Ukraine game. I was flipping a bit between the Italy-Argentina game. And I watched periods of the Scottish game, and I didn't watch all of it. And I don't know whether anybody did. But this is not the first time we've seen Scott McTominay playing at centre-back in a back three for Scotland. My issue with that is McTominay's best things I've seen him do is near the opposition's half. We've seen him play a whole season at CDM terribly, and now he's playing at centre-back for Scotland. The worrying thing about that is that the Scottish manager thinks that John McGinn, Billy Gilmore and whoever else are better midfielders than Scott McTominay, who's been starting for Manchester United all season. Riddle me that. How a player who's not good enough to start for Scotland's midfield has been playing in our midfield. That is the problem with United. Players who aren't good enough starting for Manchester United. This is why Timber needs to be brought in and start. This is why we need to buy a new midfield. I don't know what McTominay's future is, but he's not a bloody Manchester United midfielder. And ultimately, the only thing he really stands out is, and he's brilliant at it, is winning the ball in the air, which is probably why Scotland put him at centre-back. So, we can all twist and shout and talk about what's going on, but the reality is, we have to get signings in this summer. Simple as that. And those signings need to go straight into the team. We should not be buying bench players. We've got massive holes in that team. And if I was talking to Timber, and as long as Ten Hag's telling me this, if I'm negotiating for Man United, I'm talking to Timber and I'm saying, we want you because Eric Ten Hag, who gave you your debut at Ajax, really wants you as part of this project. We want you in our starting lineup. We want to build our defence around the talent and understanding of how Ten Hag wants to play. You're a pivotal part of this rebuild. We want you at Manchester United. You don't need to be worrying about your World Cup spot, because ultimately, if you come into this football club and perform, you'll be playing every week. He'll sign. He'll sign. But if we're dithering on that, well, we've got Maguire and Varane. We'll have to see. He's got every right to doubt it. The manager has talked about it. It's not that, Mark, says Robert. Don't know what you're talking about, Robert. Sorry. These one sentence takes. I'm not a genius. I can't figure out what topic you're talking about when we're going from one to another. Not sure if we should do loan moves. Have a feeling loanies will just play for a move and fall a cliff off that. I'm just being cynical here. Mohammed, you know what? I know a few people. It's all about opinion. Everyone's got a different opinion, of course. I don't really think Man United will look at loan deals at all. I don't know how loan deals benefit Manchester United. Occasionally you catch a good one, you know, look at Kulusevski and Bentancur, but they're not loan deals. They're loan deals with projected buys in them as well. So yeah, look, we'll see what happens. I'm not worried about the Timber update. I am interested in what's going to happen with De Jong over the next few days, and We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I wouldn't be panicking if I was you. I really wouldn't be panicking, because I think the reality is that this is all the twists and turns, and it comes down to three things. Persuasion. You've got to persuade the player to come to the club. Negotiation. You've got to offer the right package. And I suppose the third S, source. Look at the source information we've had on Timber. Some people are acting like we were never in for him. We're 100% in for him. We're very advanced in for him. Just got to convince him. Simple as that. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. We will be back. It's not because he can't get in there midfield, says Robert McCormack. Mate, McTominay's crap, mate. I know we have a bit of back and forth, Robert, but McTominay is crap. You cannot defend how crap he is in the midfield. He is nowhere near good enough. I don't even know what his level as a footballer is. I know he irritates a lot of people with all the interviews he does, and he definitely talks a good game, and he definitely cares about the club, and he's definitely full of passion, and all those things should be applauded. But ultimately, is he a good footballer? And the evidence over the last year is he's nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough to play for Manchester United. Now, whether that's going to change with development under a proper coach, maybe it will. Maybe we'll be praising McTominay in a year's time. But ultimately, as we sit here now, we can't waste another. We can't waste another season on McTominay in our midfield, really. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. If you want to become a member, you can click the join button or go through the live chat. We've got a brand new video coming out either today or tomorrow. I'm recording it this morning, in fact, exclusive for the members, comparing Ten Hag's style of football to Klopp's and all the stats, and seeing how the similarities work and what we might expect next year. And we'll be back at 2 o'clock, or if anything happens in between. Predictions, will announce Cavani at some point today leaving as well. Mata's gone today as well. But don't get downhearted about Timber. I think we're absolutely fine on this. United have got to deliver, and if they don't, then it's on them. Thanks for watching. Speak to you in a bit. Oh, and don't forget, 3:30 today, Champions League final time on Goldbridge TV.